Hello and welcome to On the Bench. I am your host for this episode, Brendan Sonnone. I'm joined by Chris Nee. Identity Week has concluded, Christopher. I think we should go. You ready for this? Brace yourself. Position by position about what we've learned.
Okay.
You had to be more excited. Like this is your bait. This is what you want. This is what you live for. Is a position by position preview in the off season.
I just enjoyed when Tony White did it yesterday with the defense. I was like, that's my man.
This is an ode to Tony White, who I thought stole a show this week in terms of interviews and energy. We'll get into that in a little bit. First, a shout out to our sponsors, Chattanooga Whiskey, absolutely crushing it in the craft distillery game. Literally, like everything they do is awesome. Even like experimental stuff. Yeah, they'll take some crazy hacks, I think sometimes, and they hit it out of the park. Like the limoncello finished in bourbon cask has been a huge hit. And if that's not quite your speed, if you want something a little bit more down home plate, their standard entry level bourbon's really good. Their rye's awesome. I really want to try their high proof rye because their standard rye is like 95. I think they have one that's like at 120. Anyways, they do all sorts of stuff. Chattanooga Whiskey, you find them throughout the state of Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, obviously. Throughout the Southeast at this point. They're all over the place. And it's not because of us, but might be because of us. I'm just saying. And then after you've had enough Chattanooga whiskey and you're feeling a little squirrely, you want to go ahead and sell your house, buy a house, maybe buy a lot of houses. Who do we send you to?
The Turner Group.
The Turner Group. Colin, Amy Turner do an awesome job. Great people. But also for that only matters so much. You want them to be really good at their job, and they are. They're excellent at procuring home sales and know what they're doing. They're very well resourced and connected. Griff Broker up in Tallahassee. He can help you out too. So is it Broker? Griff? What's Griff's last name? It's not Broker, is it? I think it might be.
I can't remember offhand, but
I think it might be, which is a crazy last name for. No, sorry, Colin. It's a crazy last name to be selling houses. But anyways, they do a great job. Colin, Amy Turner is who we'd recommend you to go all throughout the state of Florida. All right, Identity Week. Let's get into it, Christopher. Florida State has. I don't think we've covered that this close together before. We've had two scrimmages.
I don't think they've done it this close in proximity to before. I feel like the first scrimmage was very early, and the second scrimmage was more like around the ballpark of usually what the first scrimmage is. I feel like there's much more of a gap of no scrimmage than normal. Mike Norvell did say they want to do that first scrimmage in part to kind of get like a checklist of where the team was. So I think that was done with intention.
And then we know that Gus Malzahn loves himself a scrimmage.
Yes. He's always. I mean, I thought Gus yesterday was actually the best Gus we've had since he got to FSU. Certainly the best Gus we've had when it's come to actually talking about the team that he's dealing with.
I have two theories onto that.
One, he thinks his offense isn't half bad, and two, he's warming up a little bit to us because he's getting to know the feel for the room. It's not like the face has changed dramatically in that room day to day.
But that was.
You think it's more one than two, though?
Well, probably just a smidge. I mean, if you read Zach's scoop from the scrimmage, it does sound, and that's over at Knowles 24/7 right now. It does sound like the offense got the better of the defense with scrimmage number 2, which you don't often hear about, and that would also make sense with Tony White's tone as well. Tony White, it kind of tracks a little bit, but I don't want to glean way too much from scrimmage because when you beat someone, they're on your team, and we learned all this.
Somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose.
And also to the point of Gus Malzahn, maybe becoming a little bit more comfortable with everyone in the room and kind of knowing who the players are. We did talk about the weather. We chatted about the weather very briefly on his way into Jacksonville this past week.
Are you trying to say Gus is old because all old people like the weather?
I mean, I like the weather too.
You're old.
At heart, yeah. I'm an old soul and just old because I like to go to bed at 9 o'clock.
All right, so quarterback.
And just real quick, they were also in Jacksonville as well. We had a lot of coverage and scoop on that as well. So that's Identity Week, right? Is you want to go to UNF, it's hot, it's muggy. Some say it's muggier than Tallahassee. Some say it isn't. I don't know between those fields in past years.
I think the practice setting is more muggy in Jacksonville. I don't know if Jacksonville was more muggy than Tallahassee.
This wasn't an affront on your home of Jacksonville. It was about the actual UNF practices is what I was trying to.
I've lived in Tallahassee longer than I ever lived in Jacksonville.
All right, quarterbacks. So Tommy Castellanos, I thought one of the talking points that was interesting, it sounds like he had a really nice scrimmage, up and down week as a passer. So much we like. There's apparently a play like day 2 in Jacksonville, I want to say, where he gets like, they call it a sack, and he could have escaped it, and it was a touchdown pass. But there's those kind of moments that happen for him in practice that make it really hard to like take a statistical idea of what he's doing and the true impact of it. But in the scrimmage, Mike Norvell referenced this. He throws an interception earlier. We saw the actual pick at Seminoles.com, or their Twitter account, where Jeremiah, oh my God, I just want to say
Wilson, Jeremiah Wilson,
Jeremiah Wilson, because we're calling him Jerry now. Jerry does not drink coffee, by the way. He goes and picks off the ball, makes a really nice play attacking it. And that was earlier on in the scrimmage. Mike really liked the way that Tommy responded. I think that was something that they need to see, was how he did, because he hasn't thrown a whole lot of interceptions this preseason.
Yeah, Gus also praised him in that regard. And Gus was asked, I believe, by Ira, in fact, about improvement essentially in that regard, in the sense of ball security, making the right decisions, ball placement, things like that, knowing where to throw it, aiming correctly. His improvement from his early days at UCF with Gus versus now. And Gus was pretty praise heavy on how Tommy's improved in that regard.
So yeah, that's a thing that's a data point for us. The other one I would say, and there's not a whole lot else on Tommy Castellanos to talk about, ups, downs. Like I heard he made some really nice throws this past week, and I heard he just missed some too. Like he just was too far on one long shot.
I think that's what he's going to be, though, right? Like I don't have expectations of Tommy being a high level vertical passer. The key for Tommy is hitting the give me's, the shorts and the intermediates and the stuff that's there for him to take, and also knowing when to tuck and go.
Yeah, I was going to say, and being willing to run. Being willing to run, because we know that's a huge part of his game, and that has to translate onto the offense. Needs him to be a good runner in order for the offense to be productive. And that means that's a design runner, as a scrambler, all of that. Yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I think that it is who he's going to be. Like the PFF data that I have access to, he legitimately is the least accurate quarterback at the Power 4 the last 2 seasons combined. Even if there's some variance there, like what they're tracking as an accurate throw, it's still not a strong suit. I wonder how much better he can get at that in this short window. Like I think we have enough of a data set to be like, okay, it's probably what he's going to be. That's something that I struggle to move past, but if the mobility is there, that makes you feel better about what the offense can be.
You need him to be the 2023 version of him as a runner and the 2024 version of him as a taking care of the ball passer.
That would be you would be, if you got that, you would buy or Sonnone, sponsored by
the Turner Group.
If you got that combination, 8 wins.
I'd buy that. I think that sets the table. A lot of other things have to go right, and I think those numbers would also correlate with your O-line staying healthy, which is an essential part of your offensive attack this year because you don't have good depth on your O-line. But yeah, I mean, I think on a simplistic version of yes, I think I would buy that.
I would too. You'd feel really good about what you're getting if that was that combination. We will see. Kevin Sperry got the number 2 reps in the scrimmage. That's the second time in 2 scrimmages. Brock Glenn really didn't practice this week. He's been dealing with a foot injury. They've said it's not serious, not super lingering, but it has been a week plus. I don't know what else to take from that other than with Kevin's play. Sounds like he's taking care of the ball. I've heard consistently that he's good at taking checkdowns. Doesn't force the check down, so see what he sees. If he doesn't like it, gets rid of it. Some of the accuracy stuff has been sporadic. It'd obviously would be better if it wasn't. Also, it's a true freshman in his first week and a half of preseason camp. So I kind of shrug my shoulders at that. That would tell me is it's probably too early to expect him to be your true surefire backup. But I do think he's trending, Chris, to eventually be like your – like if Tommy were to be lost for a long portion of time in the middle of season onward, I think it would probably be Sperry.
I don't think it's like ironclad that it's Brock Glenn and only Brock Glenn anymore. I think the gap has closed. Essentially, I think Sperry was given an opportunity and did a pretty good job of capitalizing on said opportunity.
Running backs?
Chroma. It's a story. I think it's one of the biggest stories of camp. I think the interesting thing is how quickly can he ascend to being 1A. I think Gavin Sawchuk certainly in that discussion. Roydell Williams is always brought up by the staff as ultra consistent and somebody they're very comfortable with and they like. And that's sort of the discussion at that position is those three. People are going to ask, what about Jalen Lucas? Jalen Lucas is more gadgety than running back. He'll be used as a receiver. He will touch the ball in some running situations.
He will be used. I'm confident of
right.
that.
Yeah. I just don't view him in the concept of running back like we're talking about, basically toting the rock, running between tackles, running more of the inside zone stuff, and just having to be physical. Chroma's getting first team reps. That's on the record from multiple staff members having said it out loud in press conferences at this point. And like, it's not a surprise. He's taken every opportunity he's got and he's run with it, no pun intended. And he's been really, really good. And we regularly talk that if he was here in the spring, we think it would have been sort of a shoe-in for this to be a possibility. He's done a really good job as a guy who arrived later than most of kind of closing that gap and making up for that lost time.
Yeah, I think he's passed every part of the test so far that they've thrown at him. From last week with Mike talking about his rep and pass pro and how physical, it's just the way Mike Norvell talks about him, man. Like,
there's also the element of like Gus Malzahn offense. You got to have a physical back. They're going to run some wildcat things of that sort. And to me, Chroma is a guy that probably most embodies every trait they need to be successful in those regards.
Yeah, for sure. You see them walking into practice. You know who looks different. And yes, he's an older freshman. Even if he were a sophomore, he's still impressive physically. The way the coaches talk about him, the way Mike Norvell tries to contain some of the things he talks about. I mean, I asked Mike in Jacksonville, like, is the chance for him to help you out this year real? So it's real. It's very real. He was great in Jacksonville. We saw some of the clips. RIP Blake Nicholson. Like, we saw it. We heard about it. Apparently really good in the scrimmage as well. I kind of keep toggling the running back depth chart, Chris, every time we get an update on it. Because I don't know if they've had a surefire, like, this is your guy. But if there is going to be a singular guy, it will be Chroma, I think.
So as of now, I view it sort of at, I guess, like 22 UCF. I think RJ was a freshman or sophomore on that team. And it was kind of a three-headed back situation. But it was clear he was the trending up guy. And he became the guy for them over the next 2 seasons wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. I think that's maybe where we are coming out of the gate. Because I do think they're going to give Roydell a real chance. I think Roydell's done everything they've asked of him. And they feel confident in what he brings to the table. But there's a degree of the talent is eventually going to overcome what you like, and Chroma's a talent. And then Sawchuk's in there to kind of give you a different look, a little bit of a curveball, and a guy that can hit home runs potentially.
I feel like I've heard such varying things about Sawchuk. No one's been like he's bad, but some people are like, oh, he's really good, and others are like, yeah, he's solid. I don't know if that's inconsistent, just depending on what day you're talking to them, kind of deal.
I don't think he's your workhorse.
Physically, he probably isn't. I think he's honestly like a really nice third down back. He's gotten really good at pass pro throughout his career. PFF numbers bear that out with like year-over-year growth to where he was one of the better ones last year. Decent hands out of the backfield. Speed is there. He can still run the ball, obviously. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't think he's your workhorse. But yeah, I think Chroma's a storyline there. There's no need to overthink that one. Like, he's just, yes, that seems to be someone who is trending and ascending and all the endings. Looks really good off the bus, and yeah, I think you nailed that one. You need him to be good in order to be good. That seems to be where it's going. Tight end, wide receiver, pass catchers. I thought Gus was pretty transparent when I asked him about how their wide receiver group is stacking up. Like, who's he confident in? He said it starts with Deuce Robinson, Squirrel White, and then Javon Boggs.
He actually named Boggs second of that trio. Yeah. Squirrel was the third that he named.
He says it starts with those three, and I mean, he used the word starts. But in all seriousness, I think those are. I mean, Robinson's your 9, Squirrel's your 2 wide receiver off ball, and then Boggs is your 5. Your
yeah. We talked. I think when me and Zach got together, brought up how Boggs had done an excellent job of taking what he did in the spring when he was successful and earned praise, and showed that he was ready for the collegiate game and carrying that momentum into the fall. Sometimes there's peaks and valleys, especially with younger guys, and it seems like Boggs has just remained consistent throughout. The key there is depth, and it's all about second-year guys coming along. Week 1, it was Elijah Moore. That's kind of faded. Haven't really heard that name this past week. This week, it's been more Micah Danzy, a guy who's made a transition to the position. I think Mike Norvell described him as turning in a wow play in the scrimmage. Gus Malzahn was also praise-heavy regarding the play he made in the scrimmage. We know Micah's speed is real. You see it on the track. You know what he is. He's a high-level track athlete. The key for him is consistency at the spot, as it is for all of those second-year guys. LaWayne McCoy's been banged up. That's hurt. He's a guy who I think would be competing there alongside Boggs, probably fourth to Boggs' third, basically. Him not being available has been a negative. BJ Gibson, I think, has been mentioned once or twice so far this preseason for play here.
BJ had a nice
scrimmage
Jacksonville, apparently, but then he got dinged up. Yeah, and then he got dinged up though at the end of it. So, and
that's part of the issue with that room is McCoy's banged up. Squirrel White, we believe, got banged up in the second scrimmage. It's not deep enough to handle. Gavin Blackwell was banged up out of gate in preseason practice. I think he got hurt in practice number 1.
And then the spring as well was just a constant. The whole group was banged up. And
you want 6 to 8 probably to feel comfortable in the sense of like we can roll that guy out there and he can make the play we need to make. And right now, I think they're more in the 3 to 4 territory with a couple suspects for 5 and 6. So yeah, that's definitely a position where it's still a lot of like there's work to be done.
It's why Jalen Lucas is like an important piece of the puzzle because he can help you out supplementary. It's why Randy Pittman is he's used all over the place.
Yeah, and you brought up tight ends in this portion too. A guy like Murray Williams, we don't know how much O versus D he'll play. That's still up in the air, it seems. But so far in camp, it's been a lot of offense. Primarily
exclusively. I don't know if I want to say exclusively. It's been almost all offense.
Some of that's been Landon Thomas being slow to get going in the sense of his health. Chase Lofton was banged up out of gate. So I think some of it was making sure they had appropriate numbers at the position. But yeah, it has been. And we know he's good at it. And Gus Malzahn was I asked Gus specifically about Amari yesterday. I was trying to get him to give up the plan, but old Gus, he's too smart for that.
He said he'll defer to Mike. March numbers.
But he praised Amari. God, I'm using praise a lot today. He likes how Amari has grown physically and what he's done and just been consistent. They have enough guys that can catch the ball between running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends that they can do a lot of different stuff. But if they just want to be wide receiver heavy, they're not there yet.
And so on the topic of injury, you and I have both heard this similarly, and it's going to transition into offensive line, which has been a talking point. It's like, oh, we finally got all 5 of them practicing together for an extended period of time. Like, that's nice. So much of this season, from the sources we're talking to within the program, it has this caveat. Like, we think we can be good. No one's given us numbers, which in the past they've given some numbers of wins and stuff. And I would understand the hesitancy there. I would probably too if I were them. I'm actually hesitant on my own end, and I'm not them. So the caveat though that's provided with that, Chris, is what when they say we could
if we stay healthy, if that first team stays intact.
Listen, a lot of college coaches are probably saying that similarly, but this feels very true to this team.
There's positions where there's massive fall off potentially for FSU. Wide receiver, O-line are the 2 offensively, where that's definitely true.
Mm-hmm. So that's just a thing to like take that, store that away. That is a caveat that we are providing you guys. Some of you didn't listen to the caveats we provided last year, but hey, that's fine. I talk a lot. You don't have to listen to every word. Offensive line, Chris. It's not me versus them. Continue.
It seems like through 11, I think it's 11 practices now with the second scrimmage. It's somewhere in that ballpark. They have stayed consistently healthy and they've stayed together and rep after rep after rep, and they're getting better day to day. We've heard some talk in the last week. Coaches have even said it on the record about carving out space, moving people, those kind of terms you want to hear from an offensive line, especially in the system you're utilizing. I thought Gus was solid in talking about them yesterday in the sense of like feeling like they're coming along at an appropriate rate, but there's still a level to go for them to get there. The key there is depth, and Jacob Rizzi's back, which is a good one. He's played a lot of football, mostly in the Ivy League, but still a lot of football. Andre Otto is a guy that I think they feel confident can be a depth piece for them. He's been a little banged up here and there throughout preseason in the sense of I don't think he's been a completely full go guy every day. And then tackle, they're trying to figure it out. Lucas Simmons has physically developed, and Jonathan Daniels is probably the other guy that's discussed at tackle the most. But I don't think they feel confident in either of those guys right now if they had to roll with them.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's say you lose a tackle for a game,
You're probably moving a guard. You're probably, I mean, depends on.
Rizzy?
So if it's a tackle, like let's say it's your left tackle, you're probably moving your right tackle and then moving your left guard to right tackle, and then doing all this. The only guy that probably stays the same is Luke.
I've heard that Rizzy did get some reps at tackle this past week, so I don't know if that would mean him, but what I'm trying to articulate poorly here is depth is like you don't want Rizzy playing tackle for you.
If they get 2 injuries on the O-line, they're up the creek.
Yeah.
One makes it uncomfortable. It depends on where the one is. Interior can live with it better than the perimeter.
Have we talked about it on here? If we have, Chris, let me know. But how Herpan wants to not rotate offensive linemen?
Well, yeah, I brought it up a little bit after we talked to the coaches the day before preseason started because I asked Herb specifically about that. He obviously is kind of cross-train guys because that's just a natural part of that world. But his goal is, basically the horses you came with are the ones you're going to ride till the end of the race. And he compared it to when he was a player. It's like when I earned a starting role at a spot, I wanted to be the starter at that spot. So
I don't know if that was a matter of me just getting cranky because they were losing so much last year, but the rotating the offensive line, I didn't love it in 2023, but it was one of those things like I didn't feel comfortable criticizing.
Well, I mean, when you're the worst Power 4 offensive line in college football and you're DOA for a lot of football games because you're incapable of blocking people or opening up any space to run the ball, yeah, it's kind of a waste of time to rotate guys. Like, try to be good at the basics before you worry about anything else. So, yes, I get why that may have led to some frustration.
It seemed like too much. Anyways, no need to relegate the past. Do we want to talk about defense now?
I got a buyer Sonnone for you for the defense, brought to you by
the Turner Group.
The Desir twins talk is good. It's a loaded question.
It is. I know the silence isn't great for those listening. If you want a visual, it was me kind of my eyes darting back and forth. Man, my brain is going through so many scenarios. I know why you asked this.
It's a buy because it's good that those young men showed up prepared to play and have done a very good job throughout the spring and the fall to continually earn praise. They're usually the first names out of the mouth of defensive coaches, whether it's Terrence Knight or Tony White, talking about effort, guys playing hard, doing what's being asked of them and doing it at a high level.
Even just anecdotally, Deontay McCray, the way he talked about them, he's like, those guys, like every snap they take shows you they love football. And I thought that was
the Sonnone is you don't want 2 freshman defensive linemen who, no offense to rankings, I'm not one that lives and dies by rankings like some people in our business, but rankings still matter. They're not the guys that like were expected to walk in the door and beat the dudes. Now, if they are, that's awesome. They're exceeding it. People in our ranking business suck. Happy for them. That's a great thing for FSU. But there's a degree of like, there are other names I wish we were hearing to the level of them. That's why it lands in the Sonnone territory.
Yeah. So the Sonnone, I'm going to Sonnone it, and I'm going to Sonnone it largely for the reason you just outlined, Chris. It's not that they're going to play that bothers me. I think those 2 guys being in the rotation, I mean, you watch them, like you see them walk into practice, right? That's our vantage point these days. Not that I'm not salty. I'm saying that's what it is.
You're salty, but you've moved on from your saltiness.
That's a fair way to describe it. I'm salty about other things these days, trust me. The way they look physically,
yeah.
All right. Like they can give you 100 snaps in this. They can give you 10 snaps in a game. Like they go in for a series and probably hold their own. I'm not worried about that. And if they play as hard as, and we saw the scrimmage in the spring, like we know that they're capable of strength, effort, energy. Like those are all there. Cool.
And it's consistent.
It's the other people who aren't brought up that to me is some alarms are going off, right? And initially, as we get to know, like this is our first dance with Tony White, right? Like we haven't gone through this before, so we don't know some of his verbal cues, some of the messaging, what exactly it means. But as we've gotten these data points stacked up, like he doesn't bring guys up. I think that's noteworthy, and I thought it was really noteworthy this past week yesterday after this past week's scrimmage because of the. I don't want to say anger. I'll stop short of that, but there was some passion to how he talked about guys. We need everyone on the damn bus, and he was dropping some little PG-ish. Yeah, we've gotten in swears. I think an ass, a damn, things that would have gotten in a PG movie. We've only done once or twice, which they were. But he was basically said it's not right. Like some of the energy that we play with, some of the physicality we play with, it's not right. And there were guys he was happy to talk about.
Yeah, he named names in a good manner.
Yeah, he named names. When I asked him, like, well, not even from a performance standpoint, just like from like who do you trust? I remember in high school we'd have coaches to be like just foxhole guys, like not. They would talk about not talent because I was part of this, but just like who do you trust to go out and work hard? And he went down the line and listed about half dozen guys. I was like, I'm probably forgetting some, but like we haven't heard him mention Daniel Lyons once. I don't think we've heard him mention KJ Sampson since the spring.
Correct.
Shyheim Brown's a ghost.
Tay Diggs is another one. Mike Norvell mentioned Tay briefly. In passing, but yeah, that's about it.
And so a lot of those names are up front.
Yeah.
And we expect like Daniel Lyons to start, or at least we expected that at the beginning of camp. And when I do my depth chart for defense later today, I still think he's the starter. So is this motivational? And that's bringing it to the whole big picture about the Desir twins, Chris. I think it's good that they're mentioned. I think it's bad that there's not other guys mentioned with them necessarily up front. And if you want to be as good as you want to be, and the way he talked about the Desir twins too, and Kevin Wynn, he's like, I'll ride with them making mistakes because they're going to play hard. That's music to my ears. Like, that's awesome. If he lives that life, that's really cool.
On Kevin Wynn, he talked about, we asked him to lose weight. He's lost weight. His legs have gotten better under him, and his strength is natural, and he's really good. And Kevin Wynn's a guy we expect to line up behind Darrell Jackson. That's how that depth chart piece lines up. Coaches have talked about him being essentially the guy learning behind Darrell, and they've been pleased with Darrell. They don't go out of their way to bring up Darrell. I think some of that is Darrell is a guy that it's expected of with the way the program views Darrell, but they have praised him when asked about him. He has been brought up in some passing. Deontay McCray is a guy that's been brought up a good bit, talked greatly about in Jacksonville, partly because he is from Jacksonville. But I like Deontay McCray. I think we talked after the spring of Deontay McCray being a guy that we sort of trusted. That there's just something about when you speak to him, you look at how he's taking care of his body since he got here, what you hear from some feedback with regards to what he's doing on the field. There's just a degree of like you believe that that guy's going to give you every ounce of his being to be as good as he can, and he is capable of being pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, he has a role. I think that's the best way. Like, he's probably not going to be your starter, which is a little disappointing because I thought he was capable of that, but maybe not quite athletically like all of that. But he's someone who's going to play a lot, and he could play multiple spots in the defensive line. So he's part of your game plan.
A big linchpin for that entire group is Jason Jenkins, who's finally back health-wise and very highly praised for how he worked to get back. And I can attest that when I was out on that bench way too much, like in the months of June and such, Jason is a regular at showing up very early, going and getting his treatment, taking it seriously, and doing it on a daily basis. He's one of those guys that was consistently, truly a first through the door for treatment guy when I know they open up the doors for treatment. Other guys would trickle in later, but Jason Jenkins was consistently the guy that came and seemed to get it done. And when I would ask him, like, how are you doing? You feeling better? Is it getting better? He would get out of boot, for example, and start walking in a shoe. There was just a degree of, like, you tell it mattered to him. And there's a degree of, like, you always want that quality in a guy. The key with Jason Jenkins is now can he go on the field, shake the rust, and become a really good football player for them in 2 weeks in a relatively new system for him. That's a huge piece of that defensive line. I still think the defensive line goes as Darrell Jackson, Jason Jenkins, and then a third amigo who steps up with them goes. And, you know, whether that's McCray, who I like a lot personally, or somebody else, it's got to be something of that sort. I don't
trust about James Williams.
I didn't bring up James Williams. Should have. He's a guy that, you know,
real quick. Can you talk about James Williams if you want to transition to linebacker? I got one of the dogs growling at something, so I'm just gonna go check, make sure everyone's alive, real quick. James Williams, take it from there, buddy.
So James Williams, you know, the big thing with him is, can he become an every down guy? Can he be better against a run? That has been a central focus, not only by the coaches, but also by James himself. And I would argue that James has done a good job with it. He's regularly praised here recently for taking steps forward, and that T-Knight's on his backside constantly, but they have the kind of relationship where that wholeheartedly works. I believe Tony White praised him for being better against the run. James is going to be a central piece of that defensive line too. He should have been mentioned when I talked about Jackson and Jenkins. He's probably the third guy of that bunch. McCray is the other person that I think can fit into that. My concern is some of those returning guys, the Daniel Lyons, the KJ Sampsons of the world. you got to get something out of some of those guys, and it just doesn't feel like you've heard anything in the preseason that leads you to believe that they're going to be a good group as far as returning guys. Linebacker is, and Tony White spoke about this yesterday, it's a group he trusts. He praised John Papuchis a good bit for what he's done with that group, how they've come along. I think Elijah Herring's kind of the guy that is I don't want to say dude of that group, because I don't feel like that group has a solid 1A, like no doubt he's the best dude in that room. But I do think Herring's sort of the guy that's probably the most trusted guy in that room.
Fire Sonnone.
Brought to you by the Turner Group.
You have a Tatum Bethune-like player in this room.
I think that's poor Tatum. Like, dude's tearing it up for the 49ers. Bye. Yes, it's a bye for me. I feel like we neglect how good Tatum really was in the sense of collecting tackles, ending plays, and doing what was asked of him, especially when he was healthy. But yeah, Elijah's that to me. I think Elijah's going to be an ultra consistent football player for them. And I think he's going to have Omar Graham and Juice Cryer on his shoulders, with Stephon Thompson really factoring into that room quite a bit, potentially if they go 4-man, being the 4th man. And then your 5th guy up is Blake Nicholson. And, we know what Chroma did to him on video. I think Blake's a guy that's going through it a little bit right now in the preseason in the sense of trying to catch up to that group of the first 4 guys. I feel like they've distanced themselves from him.
He's not 100%, I think, is probably worth
No, but you need Blake to be good. He brings the most athleticism of anybody in that room that you're going to rely upon this year, and you need that. There's going to be elements of opponents and scheme stuff you're going to have to do where his asset, his best version of himself, is important for you.
If he's not in the mix as a starter, and he's not at this point, I mean, you outlined, I think we have a pretty clear idea of the 3, the 4th, and the 5th. And Caleb Lavalley's not a factor.
Yeah, he's still coming back from a lower leg injury. I think he's still sometimes wearing a boot.
Yeah, that's not ideal. But what I was going to say with Blake Nicholson is if he's not in the primary rotation as like an every down based defense type, I am interested to see what the staff does with him as a sub package player, because I think he offers the most tools, just pure physical tools of anyone in that linebacker room.
I think being physical is probably the area he has to improve the most.
I think maybe the Chroma video would
like, yeah, and I'm not even just going solely off that, but for a guy who's that fast, if you want him to be a heat-seeking missile, he has to be a guy that is going to get there, get off the block, and finish a play.
Some of his just confidence in reacting to it quickly. I don't know if that's been something he has. But it's still like he's entering year 3. Like it needs to be time for him to start ascending. You've invested in him multiple times now at this point, and the talent level is really high.
Go from being an athlete to being a linebacker.
So there'll be a development worth monitoring in the offseason. Yeah, I feel solid. I feel like the linebacker group is solid. I'm curious to see how Elijah Herring does as your middle linebacker. I think that's likely where he's projected. But JP talked about this right before camp, was that they know that they could put Herring at the Sam role and make him a hybrid defensive end, linebacker, jack, whatever they end up calling it. And he would probably do very well there. But they want to try to expand his game. That was part of the reason for bringing him in here, part of what he agreed to, part of what they promised him. And I don't know if that was at Tennessee something he did very well. I guess it wasn't. It was sporadic. Now he was more of it wasn't really a hybrid role, but he did a lot of different things closer to the outside at Memphis. Yeah. More comfortable there. Was that a level of competition thing? Was that just an experience thing? Was that a position thing? Yeah, shrug my shoulders. I don't know. So that's going to be a very interesting development in the early portions of the season is how does he do in that role? Because that could be a swing to whether he's an NFL type of guy in the Tatum Bethune, fringe college star type of guy, or if he's a tier below that.
It is worth mentioning Jeremiah Wilson's pick off of Tommy. Elijah Herring influenced that play a lot. He gets downhill, he gets in the face, he gets up in the air, changes the passing window, may have even touched the ball. It's tough to tell on the video clip, but it's good to see Herring making a play there. Also, Herring is a guy that the staff's gone out of their way to kind of bring him up. Like he's one of those that's regularly brought up by multiple members of the staff. We haven't talked to JP again since preseason started. I presume when we do, JP is usually pretty good at kind of hyper focusing on guys who he wholeheartedly trusts. So I think Herring will be a commonly talked about person out of his mouth.
Secondary. Let's start with Jeremiah Wilson. You mentioned the pick. I think just that if we're drafting the guys that you feel good about, he's 1A. The way the staff talks about Little's 1B. I don't know if I'm quite there. I think that's a reinforcement type of deal for them, motivational. But I think those are your two. You're like, yep, that's your leader in the corner group, and that's your leader in the safety group.
Yeah, the big thing with Jeremiah to me, and coaches have said this, and I've also had a couple conversations with both players and a couple coaches about this. The way he competes every single snap, the way he basically pushes their best receivers, him and Deuce go against each other a ton, is like just unbelievable. Like they really, really like what they see out of it. They love the way he sort of sets the tone. I think there's a degree of like Chroma's physicality running on offense has set some tone stuff over there. And Tommy obviously sets the tone on offense with being the guy that's general of the offense. I think, Earl Little is kind of viewed as a general of the defense in quotations. I think Jeremiah is one that's the emotional tone setter for them. Opposite of him at corner, it's still Jabril is the guy who's kind of first up, though we don't hear him brought up a ton. It's also not a negative. Truthfully, the corner we heard the most about in the last week is Duty, which is Shamar Arnaud, freshman. And
by the way, I'm horrified. I know it's Dudie. I struggle. No, I can't do it.
They call him Duty, though. If his mama calls him Duty, I'm going to call him Duty.
Listen, find you someone who loves calling someone by a nickname like Chris Nee does. It is uncanny how quickly that man will fall in love with a nickname. We got into it the other day in front of it. We were like bickering couple in front of everyone. You're the awkward couple that
I simply asked if the second J in Juju was capitalized.
Yeah, and then I looked over at your computer, and in your headline, which is the main like SEO, you were putting Kevin Juju in. I was like, Chris, no one's going to put in Juju in the SEO to look for it. And then there were some STFUs and FU, and everyone's just watching, and that's how we operate at this. That's our love language. So, anyways, Duty, Shamar Arnaud has been brought up a ton to your point.
Yeah, in the second scrimmage, tore through a block, got downhill, very physical end of a play, jarred the ball loose. It excited Tony White. Like you listen to Tony White talk about it, and it's exactly what he wants his DBs to be. Where not only are we good in pass coverage and aggressive to the ball while reading the quarterback's eyes, but when we got to be the physical football player on the field, the guy who comes down and makes a play in the perimeter, in space, one-on-one, when it's all about the lights are directly on you and the film ain't going to hide it, you got to go and do it. And I think that's why Arnaud earned that level of praise. But I think in general, he has put together a good camp. Definitely feels like an ascending player.
It was interesting. He was discussed very highly in the spring. We saw in the scrimmage, like he basically made Jordan Scott transfer. I don't know if that's true, but they did throw the ball to Jordan Scott, right? That was the wide receiver?
Yeah, I think that, yeah. He put him in a phone booth, yeah.
Like 3 times in a row, they went to fade pattern in the red zone. He was like, nope. And then I was like, I don't think Jordan Scott can play, and maybe Shamar Arnaud Duty can play, maybe. But they talked about a ton in the spring. Very, very quiet in the summertime. The only thing we had would hear about him, and he was like omitted when Mike Norvell would talk about freshmen, and just these little verbal trends that catch your ear. But the only thing we would hear about him, and I think it was Evan Cooper who discussed it, or maybe Pat Surtain. I don't remember which DB coach it was. They talked about need to be more maturity. And when you've heard Tony White talk about him recently, especially yesterday, it was about that as much as the physical stuff.
Yeah, and maturity was applied as on and off the field.
Yeah, he's got. He's had
some mentality thing.
Some traffic violations. We'll put it that way that are not done yet. So he's had a few things where it's like, you got to simmer down a little bit, and it sounds like he has. It sounds like the on-field stuff, he's taking it seriously. We've heard with Shamar Arnaud, like the buzz is either he's going to be a really good. I mean, you watch him like. The way he plays, the way he moves, like an NFL caliber talent, or it could
athletic with long arms, capable of covering space, making up space, can also be physical. There's a whole lot of traits that you really, really like in a cornerback there.
But there's also like, he could never see the field too, and that exists for everyone.
But it's up to him. Like it's on him. It's not a matter of like his ability's not good enough to play. He's got to make the right decisions, be the right kind of football player in every aspect of what they're asking for. to make sure he clears his path.
Had heard that like Quindarius Jones was closing the gap on Jabril a little bit for that number 2 spot, but then he's kind of been in and out of the lineup with injuries, and that's just that hasn't been. I mean, thank God they got Jeremiah Wilson. I mean, that was essential. I would shudder to think what the secondary would look like right now without like that stable piece that you add in there.
Yeah, another ascending guy
dates have been mentioned. Jamari Howard had a pick, I think, in Jacksonville. So those guys are kind of floating around there, but like no one's took it and run with it. As far as it sounds like maybe Shamar's the latest right now, as far as being like that number 4 corner stepping up.
Yeah, safety wise, Earl and Edwin feel pretty set. I think it's fair to say. Truthfully, it's interesting. The other spot's become KJ, and I guess they're doing a little cross training with Ashlyn Barker over there too. Barker works primarily behind Earl Little because that's Rover and
just physical.
Football for Dummies 101. Essentially, there's an element of Rover that's almost linebackerish. You're doing a lot of intermediate work, and you have to be physical.
Brian Urlacher is the OG Rover. For those who are old enough to remember who Brian Urlacher turned out to like a 240-pound badass linebacker in the NFL.
Barker, physically, the way he's put together, the way he plays football downhill for the most part, definitely fits Rover. Like that's definitely the role that is more, I would say, if you're pigeonholing a young man, that's where he fits.
Ashlyn Urlacher.
But they have also used him with KJ Kirkland some, and that is more the safety spot that if you were going into preseason, you probably would say would probably Shaheem Brown's to have. And it just seems like Shaheem's one of those guys that's, I don't want to use doghouse because we haven't had that word used, but he definitely seems like a guy that has plenty of work ahead of him to refortify the trust of the coaching staff to allow him to go out there and be a starter.
Yeah, man. It's August 12th.
Yeah. You got a little over 2 weeks, basically 18 days.
It started with the first week. I was like, okay, is this just a measuring stick type of deal? Like, are you trying to put in KJ Kirkland, who they like? We heard he's going to play this season, but was that real? Was Shaheem Brown being relegated to the backup job real? And it sounds like it was. Now this week, Ashlyn Barker is taking reps as well. And so it's not so there's guys jumping the line in front of Shaheem. It's not just as KJ Kirkland's getting the first crack at it type of deal. And with Ashlyn Barker too, like I think there's an idea of cross training all 3 because he's smart, and you can put him in situationally if it's a run oriented team. Like maybe you have Edwin out that series or something like that's. I think kind of what you're ultimately trying to do with Ashlyn. There is use some of his versatility for situational stuff. But yeah, the Shaheem Brown thing's been one of the most interesting developments as a non-development in camp. And
to our knowledge, I don't think he's 100%, but he is available and able to practice.
Yeah, I mean, again, they haven't brought him up.
Yeah.
Like we haven't heard his name.
It's interesting to me because he's a veteran who, he didn't play very well last year, but he is capable of being physical enough to play in this defense, in my opinion. He's also got enough versatility that I think he could fit into this defense.
There's legit NFL tools there. You're saying if you just set in a vacuum, he's got multiple years of starting experience, some good starting experience, some above average with good moments, starting experience.
Yeah, 23 better than 24.
Yeah, and some below average. Like the effort was not good last year, which that might be what is kind of, even though it was a different defensive coaching staff, like that might be kind of what's resonating still throughout this time. On paper, you think that guy would have a shot at starting for you if you just said, he's got NFL level tools, late round, but like he's got that stuff to him. He's got multiple years of starting experience at the Power 4 level. You'd say, okay, he's got a shot.
And Tony White, the most film don't lie to you guy on the staff.
I mean, the way he talks about it, yeah. We still have to see if he lives it. I think he's going to. It's our first go around with him. I'm inclined to believe him because things he's told us have been true. When he talks about someone, we will check with sources and stuff, and it reflects. Like Ashlyn Barker is practicing more this week. Like that wasn't. He mentioned him doing well coming out of the last scrimmage. You mentioned AB a couple of times, and we were like, is it Ashlyn Barker? Is it Ashton Bracewell? It was Barker. The Desir Bros, like he's been in on them since the beginning. And we got to see them in the scrimmage over the spring. It was like, oh yeah, like he's not BSing us. So I appreciate that with Tony. I do want to see that translate to the season. That's got to matter with like that was one of the big pitfalls of last year. It's like Marvin Jones Jr. kept playing. Not just kept playing, he kept starting. I'm not trying to take a swipe at, I guess that's what I'm doing. That's not in my intent. But like the effort, the energy, the body language was dog shit last year. And there was no repercussion for it. There was zero. And I understand the options behind him weren't great, but like that kind of stuff bleeds. People see that. People see bad performance, bad behavior, not the performance, even just behavior. And it doesn't get reprimanded. There's no consequence for it directly. I think Tony White's going to be about that. And the film, to your point, Chris, I think is going to be, he's given us early reason to believe that he is going to be a result-based, effort-based. Like if you're doing it the way I ask you to, you're going to be rewarded. And that's cool. Like that should be exciting for FSU fans, even if it's not a clean finished product. If you can get a return to giving a you-know-what, I think that is a positive step.
I agree. All right, special teams real quick. Weinberg's your kicker, Max your punter. People ask about return, man. What's your thoughts initially? Kick return's probably a little more difficult to forecast than punt return.
Yeah, so Mike did mention Sam Singleton. I think it was Mike mentioned Sam Singleton getting some live reps at kickoff return. We know he had that role last year. Did he have the touchdown against Duke? That was him, right?
Yeah. That's why he won freshman All-American special teams honors from one of the outlets. I forget which one, but yeah. That kick return is largely what earned that.
Just what every little boy dreams of growing up.
Hey, man, always will be an All-American. Can't take it off the resume. It's like head coach. Once you get it, it doesn't go away.
So he's one. I think him and Danzy would make sense there at punt returner. I've heard Squirrel White. I've heard Jalen Lucas. I've heard Deuce Robinson.
All right, this feels like a buy or Sonnone.
I can't listen.
Brought to you by
the Turner Group.
Does that scare the living bejesus out of you that 3 high-level players that you need to be good pieces of your offense are likely your punt returners, an area where potential injuries certainly exist?
So no, man, listen, like I'm
you just want the best players out there.
Yeah, it's part of the game. I just want some.
People had that reaction when those names were brought up, especially.
Deuce is the only one that made me go. But I was also in the anti-Keon Coleman punt returner camp, and I was very wrong on that. So
yeah, I was opposite of you on that one. But
blame
like,
squirrel.
I know Jalen got hurt last year, but it wasn't on a punt return. Correct me if I'm wrong there, so no, but I don't believe it.
Was it on the kickoff return?
Was it?
Wasn't it?
I don't know. It was so early in the year. I thought it was like his second offensive touch in that game.
It was against Boston College. I thought it was like we'll go back and look. Don't quote us on this. But I mean, like more of the Jalen Lucas thing that concerns me there, Chris, is the part about Jalen Lucas that concerns me is he lost that role in Indiana a few years ago because he wasn't fielding it cleanly. Squirrel White is someone who I think physically, like, yeah, he's so agile and stuff. Like, let's see what he does there. Was he returning punts at Tennessee? Like, why not? Because that seems like someone who would be.
I'll own that. I'm fine with good players there, but I do not want Squirrel there. And it's not because of talent. I love his talent.
I'd go like I know the first
amount of injuries, and he's not a young one either.
I know the first rep with BJ Gibson didn't go very well against who was the FCS team last year.
You know, Charleston Southern.
Listen, baseball player fields it, just catch the ball, just get it, and then fall forward right away. Get me 3 yards. Call it a day. We're good. That's what I want. Camden Fryer, baseball. Let's just get the ball to the offense. And let's roll. Let's play field position.
Don't give away hidden yards.
Yeah. When do we talk about like the punt returning development has not been very good at Florida State? And the pantheon and the laundry list of issues that we get, maybe the squirt guns aren't like it hasn't. They haven't. Anyone who's been good at it has been brought in somewhere else. It's been a disaster otherwise.
There you go. You just talked about it.
Okay. All right. Do you disagree with that?
No. I agree with you. I agree with you. No, I agree with you. in line with you on that's an area where FSU hasn't maximized who they want to be, especially on a team that focuses a hell of a lot on special teams.
Hey, a shout out Mason Arnold, long snapper. He'll always have a place in my heart for bruising Zach's shin in the video we did a year ago. But Mason's a good dude. He's been here for a while. He's your starting long snapper.
Also on the watch list for long snappers, which I apologize. I don't remember the name of.
Long snapper, you baby. Anything else?
No. So they're done with scrimmages as far as we know. Obviously, they'll do some scrimmage elements and practices still as they lead up to Bama, but like a full blown scrimmage like we've had 2 to cover the last 10 days or so, those are done. Now it's, figuring out roles on defense while elevating guys and building the depth. I think the 2 most important storylines for this team, well, 3, I'll go. O-line. O-line's got to be right. It sets the tone for everything you're going to try to do offensively. Developing depth is very important in a multitude of positions. We've talked a lot about that. I would say O-line, receiver, D-line is probably the starting portion of that conversation, followed closely by corner. And then I would say the third element that they got to get right is they just got to figure out how to be what they're supposed to be. You wrote a lot about that in the last couple of days. Identity. You asked Gus Malzahn if the offense is sort of where it's supposed to be, I believe. I think that was your question yesterday. In the sense of, is it trending in the direction you want to be at this point in camp? And he's like, it's trending, but it's not there. It's certainly not there. So I think that's the key for them between now and August 30th. Beyond the win or the loss versus Alabama element of it all, they just got to walk out on that field and know what they're supposed to be and go try to be the best version of that. And the good, build on it, and the bad, go and fix it. Doesn't need to be where that game wraps up and they feel like they're searching for answers in the sense of what are we, who are we, those kind of things. I think that would be a bad element, despite the fact they play 2 slappies the following 2 games.
I do love the word slappies, and everyone knows universally what it means when we're talking about it in the sports content. Where does that come from?
I don't know. Research it. Let me know.
All right, a quick Buy or Sonnone.
All right, brought to you by the Turner Group.
I've been the question MVP this preseason camp. I'm in the conversation, Chris.
I think I'm going to Sonnone. You're going to be surprised by this. I'm going to give it to Corey Clark. I've enjoyed the very direct. Who's been your best running back?
You know what? Yeah, I'll Sonnone it for myself. That's true. He's just like, we're not there. I want to know. Let's cut through the bullshit.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. I've appreciated that. I think he's had 3 of those, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
All right. How about this? Buy or Sonnone, sponsored by
the Turner Group.
Most improved since my Jaylen Brown, James Brown debacle.
Yeah. I mean, you've really stepped it back up. Mike hasn't laughed at you. We haven't had any King of Funk, King of Soul arguments going on. So yeah, you've come around. I mean, quantity and quality, you're checking both boxes.
All right, we'll take that. Well above average. They don't call me well above average Sonnone for nothing. All right, sponsored by the Turner Group. Sorry, Colin. Is there anything else? We good? I think we're good.
We probably forgot some, but it is what it is. We're not perfect.
Jaden Jones. We didn't talk about Jaden Jones.
Yeah, but we talked a lot about Jaden Jones from me and Zach.
All right.
We really did.
For Chris D, I'm Brendan Sonnone. This has been On the Bench. We'll talk to you guys later.